It may only take us a few minutes to finish a meal, but our digestive system takes up to 2 days to absorb all the nutrients. You can picture us humans as donuts and the digestive system as the hole in the middle. Food passes through our body in a tunnel while its nutrients get absorbed along the way. There are 2 types of digestion. Mechanical digestion is physical, and chemical digestion is done by enzymes. First, when we eat food, say potato chip, it enters the first organ in our digestive system called the mouth. Inside the mouth, the food is mechanically digested by our teeth. Your tongue is responsible for moving food under your teeth when chewing to form a bolus of food to swallow. The pharynx, which connects between nasal and oral cavities with the esophagus and trachea, decides whether you are breathing or swallowing. You cannot do both at the same time. Next, your soft palate and uvula, which is located here, moves up to prevent food from entering your nasal cavity. Your epiglottis will move and cover up your windpipe to prevent food from entering your respiratory system. This forces the food down into your esophagus, which is a tube that leads to your stomach. It rhythmically contracts its muscles, known as peristalsis, to force food down. This is why bolus can still reach your stomach even though you're standing upside down. Please don't try this at home. Before the food enters your stomach, bolus passes through the cardiac sphincter, which is located here, that prevents the backflow of food and acid mix inside the stomach, known as chyme. The stomach is a J-shaped muscular sac that has walls built for mechanical digestion and filled with gastric pits that produce enzymes for chemical digestion. The stomach walls are filled with folds called rugs that contain gastric glands. 3 things are secreted from those glands: pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and mucus. Pepsin is used to break down proteins into peptides, and it also kills bacteria on the food. It is produced as inactive, called pepsinogen, so it doesn't digest the cells that created it. They are activated once the pH of the stomach is low enough. Hydrochloric acid is responsible for lowering the stomach's pH, activating the pepsinogen, and denaturing proteins in the food for the pepsin to act on them more effectively. The mucus is produced to protect the stomach walls from the acid. The stomach also stores food before it is released into the small intestine. The caloric sphincter regulates the exit of chyme into the small intestine. The small intestine is 3 meters long and small in diameter. It is responsible for the majority of absorption of nutrients from the food. Duodenum is where most absorption takes place inside the small intestine. As food enters the duodenum, the small intestinal glands will produce enzymes to break food down. I will talk about all of those enzymes later. Additionally, juices from the pancreas and liver, which I will also talk about later, also add to the duodenum to help absorption. The walls of small intestine are filled with villi, which are microscopic folds to increase surface area. They are 1 cell thin, which enables diffusion of nutrients from the small intestine into the blood capillaries and lymph vessels inside the villi. Hydrophilic nutrients such as sugar and amino acids are absorbed into the blood capillaries, while hydrophobic nutrients such as lipids are absorbed into lymph vessels known as lacteo. The large intestine is responsible for absorbing water out of the remainder of the food, compacting, and removing waste materials. The large intestine houses bacteria such as E. coli that can break down fiber and release vitamins. The cecum connects the large intestine with the small intestine. The appendix, which is a vestigial organ, is located below it. Water is absorbed by the ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid colons. The rectum is responsible for storing feces, while the anus lets it out. The pancreas is responsible for producing pancreatic juice, which is full of enzymes that helps to absorb food. It can also contain sodium bicarbonate, which acts as a buffer to neutralize the acid in the chyme coming from the stomach. This juice is released into the pancreatic duct and into the common bile duct. The liver, which is the largest organ in our body after the skin, is one of the most important organs in our body. It has numerous functions such as storing glucose as glycogen, detoxifying and storing poison in your blood, and producing bile. This bile acts as an emulsifier of fat. It means that it will prevent fat from grouping together so that the small intestine can easily absorb it. The gallbladder is the small green sac found under the liver that stores the bile it produces. It contracts to force bile down the common bile duct and into the duodenum. Let's go over the enzymes that make this magic happen. The salivary aminase is produced by the salivary glands inside your mouth. It breaks down starch into maltose. Inside the gastric juice produced by the stomach, there is pepsin, which is produced by the gastric glands that breaks down proteins into peptides. Inside the pancreatic juice, there are pancreatic aminase, which further breaks down starch into maltose, trypsin, which further breaks down proteins into peptides, nuclease, which breaks down DNA into nucleotides, and lipase, which breaks down triglycerides into 3 fatty acids and glycerol. In the small intestinal juice, there are maltase, which breaks down maltose into glucose, pepsidase, which breaks down peptides into amino acids, and nucleodase, which breaks nucleotides into 5-carbon sugars, phosphates, and nitrogen bases. As a crucial system to our body, the digestive system is complicated indeed.